Here's something that doesn't make sense. Since 1979, American workers have become 90% more productive. They're producing nearly double the output per hour than they did 45 years ago. But their pay? It's gone up just 33%. That means you're doing almost twice the work for roughly the same money. And if that doesn't bother you, the rest of this video will. Let's be clear about something. This isn't a video telling you to quit your job tomorrow. Jobs are necessary. They pay bills. They provide stability. But here's the distinction nobody makes. A job is designed to keep you alive. It was never designed to make you wealthy. And there's a very specific reason for that. See, most people operate under an assumption they were taught from childhood. Go to school, get a good job, work hard, save up, and retire comfortably. That's the formula, right? But let's look at what the data actually says. The median retirement savings for Americans between 65 and 74 is $200,000. That sounds like a lot, until you realize that a modest retirement lasting 20 years costs somewhere between $700,000 and over $1 million. And 25 to 29% of non-retirees have no retirement savings at all. So the formula, work for 40 years, save through your employer's plan, retire comfortably, is failing the majority of people who follow it. But why? Reason number one, employment is a linear income model. You trade hours for dollars. Whether you make $15 an hour or $1,500 an hour, there is a ceiling, because you cannot sell more than 24 hours in a day. A business, on the other hand, is a scalable asset. It can generate revenue while you sleep. It can be sold. It can compound. And the data proves this. According to the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, the median net worth of self-employed families is $380,000. For worker families, $90,000. That's over a 4-to-1 ratio. Now, does that mean you have to start a business right now? No, but it means the structure of employment has a built-in wealth ceiling that business ownership doesn't. And that leads us to reason number two, which is where the system gets truly unfair. Here's a fact that should genuinely bother you. If you earn your income through a job, through wages, you are taxed at progressive rates from 10 to 37%. On top of that, you pay 15.3% in FICA payroll taxes. That's Social Security and Medicare, split between you and your employer. But if you earn your income through investments, through capital gains, you pay a maximum of 20%. And here's the kicker. Capital gains are completely exempt from FICA payroll taxes. This is the IRS tax code, topic 409, available on their website right now. Warren Buffett himself made this point famous. In 2012, he publicly disclosed that his effective tax rate was 17.4%. His secretary's was 35.8%. Why? Because his income came from investments, hers came from a paycheck. He literally said, and this is a direct quote, "If this is a war, my side has the nuclear bomb." So the tax code doesn't just happen to favor capital over labor. It's architecturally designed that way. And when you're an employee, you're on the wrong side of that architecture. But taxes are only part of it. Reason number three is the one I promised would change your perspective. Between 1979 and 2025, net worker productivity in the United States rose by 90.2%. Worker compensation, 33%. That gap represents trillions of dollars in value that workers created, but didn't receive. The Economic Policy Institute found that more than 80% of this gap is explained by two things: rising inequality in compensation, meaning the gains went to executives and shareholders, and a declining share of corporate income going to labor versus capital. In plain English, you got better at your job, the company made more money because of it. But the extra money went to the people who own the company, not the people who ran it. And simultaneously, the things you need to survive keep getting more expensive. Since 2001, the true cost of maintaining a basic standard of living in America has risen 106%. That's not the government's official inflation number. That's the real cost of rent, healthcare, childcare, and food, measured by independent researchers. Meanwhile, from May 2025 to May 2026, nominal wages rose 3.7%. Inflation, 4.2%. You read that correctly. Even when wages go up, if they go up slower than costs, or are getting poorer every year while working full-time. Nearly 1 in 3 Americans have skipped meals to save money. 3 in 10 have delayed medical care. Half have dipped into their savings just to cover routine expenses. This is the squeeze. You're producing more, taking home relatively less, and paying more for everything. And the question becomes, where is the extra value going? Here's where we follow the money. The S&P 500, a basket of the 500 largest publicly traded companies in America, has returned roughly 10% per year over the last 30 years. Meanwhile, inflation-adjusted median household income has grown from about $71,000 in 1970 to about $83,000 in 2024. That's roughly 17% total over 54 years, about 0.3% per year. Let me make this concrete. If you put $10,000 into the S&P 500 in 1996, compounding at 10% annually, by 2026, you'd have approximately $174,000. That same $10,000 growing at the rate wages grow, about $10,970. The same dollar grows 17 times faster in capital markets than in the wage economy. That's not an opinion. That's math. And who has money in capital markets? The top 1% of American households hold 28.8% of all wealth. The bottom 50%, 5.3%. The wealthiest 10% own 94% of all business wealth. 45% of families in the top 10% of net worth hold business equity. In the bottom 25%, 3%. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. It's just not designed for employees. Now, I want to be careful here. This isn't a quit your job and start dropshipping video. 88% of millionaires are self-made, according to Fidelity Investments. But the data also shows they spent an average of 30 years building their wealth. 94% lived within their means. 62% went to state schools. This is not overnight. So here's the framework that the data supports. Step 1. Understand the game you're actually in. Your job is a cash flow tool, not a wealth building tool. Use it to fund the things that actually build wealth. Investments, business equity, assets that compound without your time. Step 2. Close the tax gap. Even within employment, you can use tax-advantaged accounts, 401ks, IRAs, HSAs, to move some of your income from the high-tax wage column into the lower-tax capital gains column over time. Every dollar you get compounding on the capital side of the ledger is a dollar playing by different rules. Step 3. Build or buy an asset. That might be a side business, rental property, index fund portfolio, or intellectual property. The key distinction is this. An asset generates income independent of your time. A job does not. And the real question isn't can you afford to do this, it's can you afford not to. Because the math we just went through isn't going to reverse itself. So, the real reason you'll never get rich at a job, it's not because you're not talented. It's not because you're not working hard enough. It's because the architecture of employment, the tax code, the compensation structure, the linear income model, and the rising cost of living is designed to maintain you, not multiply you. The people who build wealth don't work harder than you. They work within a different structure. And the good news is, you can start building within that structure too. It doesn't require quitting anything. It requires understanding where your dollars go after they land in your account, and making sure at least some of them are playing the game that actually compounds. If this changed how you think about your income, consider subscribing. I make these because I believe financial literacy shouldn't be locked behind a paywall. I'll see you in the next one.